Techie Brezza, the Citybird SUV.
163 for 5 is what LSG finished with, an innings where 3 of their batters crossed 30, but none of those batters touched a strike rate of 150. How does that score shape up? Will it be enough to land Lucknow a first win over Gujarat Titans? On Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout. Tom Moody, McClenaghan and Raunak Kapoor will help decode that first innings for us. Tom, assessments on the score and what you saw from the pitch, is it well below par?
I wouldn't say it's well below par, but it seems like it could be, 10 to 20 runs short. I think, with the double strike early on in that innings, I think that sort of sent shockwaves through the dugout of LSG, and it prompted an over-conservative reconstruction with KL Rahul and Marcus Stoinis. It's important that they rebuilt from that setback, but to me that rebuilding took too long and went on for too long. At some point in that partnership, it needed to sort of have a breakout moment.
Yeah, it was familiar to kind of what we saw the other night with Faf and Kohli together, where we were wondering who was going to go when, and they just took a little bit too long to pull the trigger and start upping that strike rate, and left a little bit too much for Badoni and Pooran to do in the middle to back end, particularly when you've got Noor Ahmed who's bowling sensationally at the moment, and then the way GT's looking like they want to set up, they want to keep Rashid Khan for the death, and you've got 2 high-quality spinners. It's hard to just go from ball 1 when you come in.
Yeah, those 2 spinners bowled their 8 overs for just 50 runs. We'll come to that in just a bit, but your thoughts on just how that LSG innings panned out?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what Tom said, at the decision to bat first, because we're now observing the 2 new teams give us a lot of interesting comparisons and how they develop in the league. And the Titans have already established quite a nice reputation of being a force at home. Lucknow, on the other hand, they actually just won 3 out of their 7 at home last year, 1 no result. And this whole thing of, they can use surfaces smartly, something that we've seen CSK do and Gujarat do. Today they won the toss and batted first. Now, I don't know if this was a tough surface, if it was different, but even if we go to the Punjab game, the one where Mayank Yadav we first saw, Punjab were in quite a good position. They're chasing 190 odd. So I wonder why they've decided to set up here and put themselves in this position. We were trying to find out, and you were saying, Tom, sometimes it's a better idea to tell your opposition to do that. Every game they've won here, they've scored at least 177. They have not defended a score less than that. So that's just something to just try and understand.
Probably looks like a surface that's better than a 177 surface as well. It looks like it didn't look like it was turning. Noor Ahmed got a few wrong-uns to go away, but it kind of looked like with the arm, it wasn't sharp spin, which looked challenging to play. So it looks like a really good surface. So it was might have just been intent or tempo. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I think it's, the tempo, particularly in the first half of that innings, it just lacked, the drive after resetting, after those breakthroughs. And again, there was an opportunity, when you've got someone like Nicholas Pooran in the dugout, ready to go, you just don't want to leave him in there too long and not give him enough. I think he only faced 22 balls.
Correct.
And for one of the, if not the best, certainly in the conversation in the grand final of the best ball strikers in the game at the moment, to only face 22 balls out of 122, I'd be questioning, if he was left a little bit too late.
Yeah, that's a...
Please carry on.
No, that's a good point. I guess as well, without going away from that too far, I think you've kind of got to look at what they were trying to achieve. Were they trying to keep Nicholas Pooran away from Noor Ahmed and just leave him for that death phase? And if that's the case, you lose one of your strike rate generators in the middle there, and to only get 47 in the power play, if you're going to try and conserve wickets through the middle against the leg spin of Rashid and Noor Ahmed, then I think you've had to go a lot harder in the power play. Yes, they lost a couple of wickets, but you can't change your plan of attack if you need to get ahead of the run rate to navigate that period against 2 good wrist spinners to save Nicholas Pooran for the end. So I think maybe they kind of went a little bit gun shy on what their plan was. It looked like they went in with a plan to just navigate the wrist spinners and not give them too much instead of attacking them as we've seen the other teams do so far this tournament.
Yeah, just quickly on Pooran, I think if LSG don't win this and if LSG don't sort of get on a bit of a hot streak, Pooran will become the big subject here. Because it also seems like a plan that they improvised as the season went on. We remember in the first game against Rajasthan, Badoni came at 4 and Deepak Hooda played. Then Deepak Hooda went out of the team and Stoinis suddenly batted above Pooran. I'm sure there'd be a pre-season chat. Let's be flexible with Pooran and Stoinis, flexible. But you almost feel like when you're batting first, you've got to give Pooran more of a chance. And if there's a collapse, then you still have a lot of batting. You still have Krunal Pandya. You have Stoinis who can...
Well, Benoni showed promise tonight. You know,
Yeah.
his 20 runs off 11 balls tonight was, you know, shows clearly that he's up for it.
Yeah, so I think somewhere maybe that point will come back to them. Why have they chosen to send Stoinis ahead of Pooran?
That's quite a... For me, it's an easy one, and you guys might disagree with me here, but Stoinis needs time.
Yeah.
Every good innings that I can remember from Marcus Stoinis, he's either been in early, batting lower down the order, or he's been opening 1, 2 or 3, because he needs time to get through and into his innings, and then he's a phenomenal striker of the ball. He's a bit like Cameron Green in a way, in terms of needs a few balls before he can hit and clear the ropes, and that's how I see him. I don't see him coming in and hitting from ball 1.
But as coach, how do you make that decision? When you have on one end someone who you count as one of the best batters going around, you want to maximize the balls he gets, versus someone who might do well if he gets more balls. So this Pooran Stoinis debate, which way would you go?
It's very subjective, isn't it? You know, you know, we can look back, you know, after the result and sort of have opinions on it. But at the time, there'll be logic around why they have gone with Stoinis first. And I think the point that Mitch made around, you know, the record that Pooran's got around Noor Ahmed is something they're thinking, well, let's manage that little time in the middle of the game, and we know that Pooran can accelerate at the end. Yeah. And let's face it, like, even though that it's quite reasonable, Pooran's 32 off 22, but it's not quite the Pooran that we've seen over the past 12 months, where it's normally striking at 200 at the back end of an innings. So he was, particularly the front end of his innings, he was suffocated a little bit, where he was more balls than runs at one point. Go on.
No, I'm just sort of breaking it down. I think the key here is when you compare that partnership to Faf and Virat yesterday, it's when that partnership of KL Rahul and Stoinis is building, it's okay to send Stoinis ahead of Pooran, but then at what point do they shift gears?
Yeah.
And there's about a 7 or 8 over phase where they've gone at 6s.
Yeah, well, that's my point. Is that and that was the same point I had yesterday.
Yeah.
In that partnership between Faf and Virat, in that, you know, to me that communication needs to be, you know, you either both go or you identify if there's a standout player and a good matchup for a particular bowler, you then take responsibility and say, I'm taking this guy down. So can you get me on strike? Because I backed myself to hit at minimum 2 boundaries off of that over. Because you need that over of, you know, 14, 15, 16 plus to really, you know, jump ahead of the game.
Worth spending some time on how Gujarat went about their bowling. They got that obvious boon at the start with Umesh Yadav getting those early wickets, but Shubman Gill's handling, and yes, well played, Raunak, who picked
What an inspired selection that was.
Well done.
But carry on.
Points table shall be fun. But after those early strikes, how do you assess how Gill worked with his bowlers? He did deviate from plans. You saw Rashid Khan being saved. You saw Spencer Johnson bowl the last ahead of Mohit Sharma, who's their designated bowler.
Look, the last one might have just been on the hop. I don't think that might have been the plan from the outset for him to bowl the last over. If it was genius, because it was on the back of some confidence from Spencer Johnson leading up to that. He got the new ball in the power play, got into the game. He looked far better than we've seen it throughout this tournament. And then they used him as an attacking weapon, and that's how he should be used. He got brought back to try and get Nicholas Pooran out with balls above the shoulders, and he was effective in that role. So he had 3 good overs leading into that last one. So it was a positive outing to only go for 32 out of his 4 overs when he's lining up in that last over against one of the best finishers in the game is very positive.
Tom?
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think you'd walk away from that performance and feel that, I've got it right. I've had a pretty good day out today, because he bowled the tough overs. And they're generally up front in power play, where you've got the field restrictions, and if then you're responsible for 1 or more at the end, they're always you doing the heavy lifting. And if you come away, it's always nice to pick up a wicket or 2, But that's sometimes not. It's not always about that either. It's the pressure you build at your end that creates the opportunity at the other end.
Anything?
I was just deferring to their assessment. If this is not as slow and as much of a turner, then the returns for Noor Ahmed and Rashid are wonderful. It's as simple as that. You know? So if this, then that just goes to show again, maybe if you talk about maximizing your batting resources, whether Lucknow have done that.
And that also actually takes us to an interesting line of thought for Lucknow's bowling effort when they come out now, because Rashid and Noor, 8 overs for 50 runs between them. If you look at Lucknow's bowlers and how they've gone so far this season, the Pacers have done all the heavy lifting. The economy is tidy. They've done all the wickets. Spinners have kept it tight, barring Ravi Bishnoi. Bishnoi is gone at 9.6. The others have kept it closer. Do you expect, on the evidence of what we've seen from the surface so far, a bigger role for those spinners in the Lucknow team?
I think that graphic there really just highlights one particular fast bowler, and that he's had an extraordinary time of it since he burst onto the scene. There's no reason why Ravi Bishnoi is not going to come into the contest, whether it be today or very soon, because he's a very fine bowler, more of a defensive spinner, but he would not normally have the economy rate of 9.6. So I'm sure that he'll rectify that, whether it's today or beyond. But they've certainly got the armoury when it comes to spin to be able to, if it is a spin-friendly surface, as in not so much turning, but just staying in the wicket a bit, it's certainly a good lineup to have.
Just saying that Sai Sudarshan is opening as well.
Oh.
So we were wondering whether Sharath would come in for Saha, but they're going left and right. Sudarshan to open. And I wonder if the score also tempts them into saying 160 is right up Kane Williamson territory. We may not need Matthew Wade, so we can activate that impact sub nice and
that's
early.
a good point.
That's a good call. My concern for Gujarat Titans fans is Sai Sudarshan's done such a great job at number 3. He's managed the situation and held that innings together throughout this tournament and hasn't been exposed overly early in the comp so far. So, it's an interesting one, but looks like Lucknow is going to continue with the left-arm spin at the start. And we know Sai Sudarshan, he takes down spin, particularly left-arm spin. So it's a nice little handy match-up to get early in the game.
It is, but he's quite unique, sort of,
arm balls, doesn't he?
as a left-arm spinner. He relies more on his arm balls with that new ball against looking to turn the ball into the left-hander. So I'm sure that's what his change-up will be, is that sort of arm ball swinging away from the left-hander.
Yeah, just very quickly, I'm surprised Stoinis is the one subbed out. I wonder if that surprises you in any way.
It does surprise me, but it could well be the fact that he's got a niggle.
Yeah, he bowled for the first time in this season in the last game, picked up a wicket, so at least he's an option. Not that they need Stoinis as much as any of the others, but possibly a niggle.
It has to be a niggle because you'd want his overs as backup, because particularly on that surface, I think someone like Stoinis that can bowl that sort of hard length on top of the stumps can be difficult to hit.
Right, let's get quick predictions in. Anyone backing Lucknow to get a win over Gujarat for the first time?
I'll just add that GT, when they played this game last year, defended 135.
Yeah.
But that
Different
I think was a
surface.
slightly
It was a day game.
This is
very
a good
different surface.
This is a good surface.
We have seen low scores being defended here, but this, I'm going to defer to that. If this is a good surface, no reason why GT shouldn't win.
Yeah, look, I actually think it's going to be really tight. I think Gujarat Titans get over the line. I just don't see any real strike rate generators in the middle there for GT if they get behind the 8 ball early. So it's going to be a massive power play for Lucknow, and then Mayank Yadav can put some pressure on with a couple of wickets. It's going to be tight. I'm going to say Gujarat, but it's going to be a last over win.
Ooh.
All right.
I think Gujarat, and it's going to be an old school T20 game, which is your 160, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's an old-fashioned. We can call it old-fashioned now, can't we? We've been around T20 world long enough.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be an old-fashioned sort of chase, and it's going to go down to the wire in the last over.
It'll also be fun to see how Mayank Yadav responds to what's a par score, an in-between score. Even though Punjab had a good start, they still needed 9s and 10s and over the time that he came on. So this time, if they don't have to force the issue against him, can he still find ways to get them? So nice challenge for him. I think GT should win this.
Yeah, the other thing around Mayank Yadav is that he's yet to see the pressure of expectation, and that's starting to creep in now. There's been a lot of attention on him, and quite rightly so, because he's pretty special. but how he responds to that level of expectation, the more responsibility with media that he would have had over the last few days, and just walking down the street or walking through airports, a lot more attention around that. It's a different ball game. Yeah. So how he manages that around his performance is going to be interesting.
There's a lot of social media stuff coming through.
Yeah.
One of our former colleagues who's now with Lucknow Super Giants has done a little piece with him where he's counting how his following has increased.
Oh yes, I saw that. Yeah. Well, that's
while it's fun, when he's on his own,
those are the things you want to cut out.
Yeah.
If you're his mentor, you'd be shielding all that away. Just getting him focusing on running in and bowling fast and straight.
Right then, let's see how Mayank Yadav rocks up the third time around. He's had 2 sensational spells to start his IPL career. Let's see if he continues to do it. And be sure to join us at the end of Lucknow versus Gujarat Titans, the SPN Cricinfo mobile app. If you haven't downloaded it already, do it and follow the game over there. All the news, all the analysis from around the world of cricket for you over there. And that's all from us for now on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricinfo Timeout.
All new hot and techy Brezza, the Citybird SUV.